He was loyal. He trusted blindly. He would sit by the door waiting for his owner's return, even when he came home drunk and violent. But one night, in a burst of rage, the man dragged the dog, a German shepherd named Rex, to the edge of a high-rise balcony, the 14th floor. No one believed what happened next. He was thrown into the darkness. But what followed isn't about what he suffered. It's about what he survived, and who taught him to trust again. If you've ever doubted that broken souls can still heal, this story will change that. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. That way we can bring you more powerful stories like this. The city lights blinked in silence while Rex curled up beside the glass door, his tail thumping slowly against the cold tile. He was used to waiting, for hours, for days if needed, because dogs don't count time. They only know loyalty. Rex was only 2 years old, strong, smart, and gentle. He had been adopted as a pup by a man who, at first, had seemed like someone who cared. But kindness faded fast when the drinking began. The man didn't hit him often. That's what people would later say, as if that somehow made things better. But the neglect was a constant shadow. No water for hours, no food unless he barked too much, and always the shouting, the bitter, endless shouting. And Rex, he still waited, still hoped. That night, everything was quiet at first. The TV buzzed in the background. The man had left hours earlier and came back reeking of alcohol and rage. Something about losing a bet, maybe. Rex stood up and wagged his tail, ears perked. That was his mistake. The man's boot connected hard with his ribs. Rex yelped, stumbling back, confused, not understanding what he'd done wrong. The shouting got louder. Then came the door to the balcony. Then came the dragging. Then the lift. A neighbor later said they heard barking, frantic and broken, echoing through the walls. But no one came. At the edge of the railing, Rex's paws scrambled, claws screeching on concrete. His eyes locked onto his owner's. He wasn't angry. He was confused, still trusting. That's what broke people's hearts later. Not the fall, the look in his eyes before. The man lifted him, and without a word, let go. 14 stories of air. 1 second of weightlessness. Then the crash. It wasn't the ground. It was a rooftop, lower than expected, covered in tarps, old mattresses, trash. Enough to break his fall, but not his back. He didn't die. But something inside him did. Hours passed before someone found him. A janitor taking a smoke break. The man saw the broken dog lying still, eyes open, legs twisted unnaturally. He thought Rex was already gone, until the tail moved. Once. The janitor didn't speak. He couldn't. He stood frozen in the half-lit corner of the rooftop, staring at the crumpled body that wasn't dead. Not yet. Rex lay twisted, his chest rising with shallow, ragged breaths. His eyes were open, but they didn't blink. They didn't move. The only sign of life was the slow twitch of his tail, a broken flag refusing to fall. It was instinct that made the janitor pull out his phone. His hands trembled as he dialed emergency services, voice cracking as he tried to explain something he couldn't quite believe. He was thrown from above. But he's alive. The vet technician later said dogs don't usually survive falls like that. Not from 14 stories. Not unless there's a miracle or something still waiting to be done in their lives. The ambulance came. Not for a human, but for him. And in the back, while 2 techs worked in silence, Rex never cried, never whimpered, never resisted. He just stared at the ceiling of the van as if trying to understand why he was still here. At the clinic, everything moved fast. X-rays, IV drips, stabilizers. His front leg was fractured, 3 ribs broken, a puncture near the lung, internal bruising, but no spinal damage. The vet, a woman named Elena, kept repeating those words to herself like a prayer. No spinal damage, no spinal damage. But what caught her most wasn't the physical condition. It was the eyes. He doesn't fight us, uno de los asistentes murmuró. It's like he's given up. Rex lay still on the surgical table. Machines beeped rhythmically around him. His body was trembling slightly from shock, but he made no sound. The staff did their work. They cleaned the dirt, shaved the areas around his wounds, stitched what could be closed. They patched and wrapped and whispered words he couldn't understand, but his ears barely moved. He didn't understand why they were helping. He didn't know how to trust anymore. Back at the apartment, the man who had thrown him down sat on the couch, sipping from a beer. The news hadn't reached him. He thought the dog was dead. Or maybe he didn't think at all. But someone had seen him. The neighbor who heard the barking, who peeked through the peephole and caught just enough to know something was wrong. She'd called the police. And now there was a report, a statement, a name. Justice was coming. But slowly, and Rex didn't know that. He only knew pain. 3 days passed. He didn't move, ate only what was fed through tubes. His eyes remained empty. On the 4th day, something changed. Elena entered the recovery room at sunrise. She sat beside him, as always, spoke to him, as always. But this time, she brought something else. A small stuffed animal, shaped like a bone. She placed it near his paw, and for the first time since the fall, Rex blinked. It wasn't much, but it was something. That night, she stayed late, just to sit with him in the quiet. And when she turned to leave, she heard it. The softest sound, a breath, a sigh, a whisper from a soul not yet broken. It was the sound of a dog choosing to stay. Rex didn't understand kindness anymore. He watched people come and go, their faces gentle, their hands careful, their voices soft. But to him, it all blurred into background noise, just like the shouting used to. His mind still lived on the balcony. His body flinched at sudden sounds. And yet, he never growled, never barked, never moved. He simply existed. Elena checked on him every morning. She spoke to him like he was whole, even when she knew he wasn't. And still, Rex stared at the floor. It was the 8th day when Carla came. She was 17, barely old enough to be trusted with driving the clinic van, but she volunteered every weekend, cleaning cages, walking seniors, calming scared animals after surgery. Elena called her in for something else this time. "I want you to sit with him," she said. "Nothing more. Just sit." Carla peered into the kennel where Rex lay. He didn't lift his head, didn't flick an ear. "He's beautiful," Carla whispered. "And broken," Elena replied. "Like something precious someone dropped." Carla nodded. She knew about broken things. Her father had walked out when she was 10. Her brother stopped speaking 2 years later. Her mom worked 3 jobs. She knew about silence, so she offered hers. She sat outside the kennel, crossed-legged, and said nothing. Just like Rex. The first hour passed, then another. On the second day, she came again. This time, she brought a small book and read softly. Nothing dramatic. Just her voice. Something steady. And on the third day, Rex turned his head. Only an inch. But Carla noticed. Healing doesn't happen like fireworks. It's not loud. It's not sudden. It happens in glances, in pauses, in moments no one else sees. Rex began to blink more. His eyes followed Carla's movements. He didn't flinch as often. When she offered him her hand through the kennel gate, he didn't pull away. On the 10th day, she opened the door and sat inside, a few feet away. Rex watched, unmoving, but his breathing stayed calm. She placed a towel near him and laid a small treat beside it. He didn't eat it. Not that day. That night, Elena checked the camera feed. There he was. Alone. Quiet. Then, slowly, Rex stretched his paw out, pulled the treat close, and ate it. Carla smiled when Elena told her the next morning, and that afternoon, Rex wagged his tail. Once. Just once. But it was the first time since the fall. Carla didn't speak. She just whispered, "There you are." Later that week, Rex tried to stand. His legs shook under the weight of healing bones. He collapsed twice. But the third time, he held. Just for a second. The room erupted with applause from the vet techs. Elena held back tears. Carla leaned down, rubbing his ears gently. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. And maybe, just maybe, Rex understood. At night, he still dreamed of falling, still jolted awake from memories he couldn't name. But now, there was always a new sound waiting in the dark. Carla's voice, reading, soft, steady, and it no longer felt like background noise. It sounded like home. The first time Rex stepped outside again, the sky felt too big. He stood at the entrance of the clinic, tethered gently to Carla with a soft leash. The concrete beneath his paws was warm, the air light with the scent of trees and spring. Birds chirped in the distance. A car rolled by. He flinched. Carla didn't pull. She didn't speak. She simply sat beside him, holding the leash loosely, letting him decide, letting him breathe. It took 10 minutes before he took the first step. Recovery wasn't a straight line. Some days Rex walked with confidence, ears alert, tail high. Other days he'd freeze mid-step, staring at a shadow or a loud sound, his entire body trembling with memories. Carla never rushed him. She gave him space when he panicked and praise when he moved. The other volunteers noticed. "That dog is different now," one whispered. But there were whispers of another kind, too. "Isn't that the one from the news? The one that guy threw off the building? They should have put him down. He's probably unstable." Carla heard them, and Rex felt them, not through words, but in the way some people looked at him, with fear, with judgment, as if his trauma was a stain that might spread. One afternoon, during a routine walk, a woman with a child passed by. The child pointed with excitement. "Mamá, un perrito bonito. No, no te acerques. Ese perro es peligroso," she snapped, pulling the boy back. Rex's ears dropped. His tail stopped wagging. He lowered his head, ashamed for something he hadn't done. Carla's voice was low but firm. "He's not dangerous. He's just learning to live again." But the woman was already gone. That night, Carla cried in the storage room, not out of frustration, but out of helplessness. She had seen Rex's progress, the way he blinked now when she entered the room, the way he followed her with quiet trust, the way he no longer jumped when someone coughed or dropped a tool. But to the world, he was still that dog, the one who fell, the one who survived, not the one who loved, or tried, or healed. Meanwhile, justice moved slowly. The man who had thrown Rex was arrested weeks after the report was filed. But laws for animal cruelty were weak. He claimed the dog was aggressive, claimed it was an accident, claimed he'd been under emotional distress. The court postponed the hearing. Carla followed every update. Elena tried to keep her away from the news, but she refused. "I need to know, for him." She knew Rex would never testify. He'd never get to say what happened that night. But his body already told the story, the scars, the healing bones, the fear, and maybe his courage, too. One morning, Carla found Rex staring out the window of the clinic. The sun spilled across the floor. He stood tall now. His gait was slow but steady. When she approached, he didn't flinch. He turned and nudged her hand with his nose. She smiled. "Ready for something new today?" He didn't answer, of course. But when she picked up the leash, he walked to the door without hesitation. Outside, the breeze carried the scent of flowers. A child passed by and waved. Rex didn't cower. He looked. He blinked. He wagged his tail. A small one. But it was real. Carla exhaled. Hope could be quiet. And sometimes it looked just like that. The courtroom smelled like paper and nerves. Carla sat in the third row, hands clenched in her lap. Rex wasn't there. Animals weren't allowed. But his absence felt like another injustice. He was the victim. He had lived the fall. And still, he wasn't the one allowed to be heard. The man who threw him sat near the front in a cheap suit, hair combed, face blank. As if this was just another inconvenience, not a trial about a life he tried to end. Carla stared at the back of his head, wondering how someone could look so normal and carry something so dark inside. The prosecutor presented photos first, the X-rays, the trauma, the rooftop where Rex had landed, the torn ligaments, the broken ribs, the dented metal railing. He explained how the fall should have killed him, and how it didn't. Then came the vet's testimony. Elena spoke with calm conviction. She described the physical wounds, but more than that, she described the silence. He didn't growl, didn't fight. He just existed. That's not normal. That's trauma. That's learned helplessness. The defense attorney objected. Speculation, he said. But everyone in the room had seen the images. They knew it wasn't speculation. It was survival. Carla was next. She took the stand with her voice trembling, but she didn't cry, not until the end. She told them about the walks, the sleepless nights, the way Rex flinched at sudden noises and wagged his tail when he saw her face. How long it took before he even looked her in the eye. He's not just a dog. He's a life. He's a heart. And someone tried to erase that. Her words lingered in the silence that followed. Even the judge looked down for a moment, lips pressed together. The defense made its case, of course. The man had been drinking. He'd had a rough day. He said Rex had growled at him, that he panicked, but everyone could feel it. The excuses didn't match the damage. The fall wasn't panic. It was cruelty. The trial ended that afternoon. The sentence wouldn't come for another week. Carla left the courthouse drained, unsure of what had been accomplished. At the clinic, she found Rex curled up on his blanket, eyes half closed. He lifted his head when she walked in, ears twitching. She sat beside him and laid her forehead against his. "You did nothing wrong," she whispered. "None of this was your fault." That night, the nightmares returned. Rex woke whimpering, legs twitching, tail thumping in panic. Carla rushed to his side, hand over his chest. "Shh, you're safe. You're here. I've got you." His breathing slowed. His eyes searched hers. That was the thing with trauma. It never asked permission to come back. It arrived in waves, unexpected and unfair. But it could be met with presence, with love, with stillness. A week passed. Carla didn't check the court website. She didn't call. She waited. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Elena answered, then handed her the phone. He was sentenced to 6 months of community service, no jail time, a fine, and he's barred from owning animals for 5 years. Carla didn't say anything for a long moment. "That's it?" Elena nodded slowly. "That's it." She hung up. And then she cried, not from surprise, but from exhaustion. And Rex, sensing something, walked toward her on steady legs. He pressed his body against hers, resting his head on her lap. She ran her fingers through his fur. "They won't ever understand what it cost you, but I do. I won't forget. Ever." And Rex stayed there, warm and quiet. The sentence may have been light, but the healing, that was heavier than any verdict. It had been 3 months since the fall. Rex no longer walked like he was afraid of the ground. His steps were slow but confident, his body leaner now, stronger. The clinic staff had stopped calling him the rescue case and started calling him the gentle one. But no one called him adopted, because no one had asked for him. Elena understood. Dogs with his past came with invisible scars, and people, even the well-meaning ones, often feared what they couldn't see. Some came, looked into his eyes, and gently said, He's beautiful, but maybe not for us. Carla stopped correcting them. She simply nodded and went home to cry quietly, then came back the next day and read to him anyway. But Rex wasn't just surviving anymore. He was connecting. He followed Carla down the hallway. He greeted Elena with soft tail wags. He learned how to sit again, how to gently take treats from a hand, how to rest his head on a lap without trembling. The day he barked, a short, surprised sound at the sound of a bouncing ball, the entire clinic staff froze, then clapped. It was joy. It was voice. It was life. And then came the storm. Late September brought heavy winds, and one afternoon, a metal sign outside the clinic was torn free. It slammed against the glass front door with a thunderous crash. Rex was in the main room. The moment the sound hit, his body froze. His eyes widened. Then came the panic. He bolted, tail tucked, breath shallow, knocking over a chair as he scrambled toward the back hallway. Carla chased after him, heart racing. "Rex! Rex! It's okay! It's just wind!" But he didn't hear her. He hid under the supply table, pressed against the wall, trembling so hard the floor vibrated beneath him. His eyes darted wildly. His breathing was shallow, too fast, too sharp. It was the balcony again. It was the scream, the fall, the pain. Carla dropped to her knees a few feet away. She didn't try to touch him, didn't speak. She just sat, waiting, breathing. After what felt like forever, Rex looked at her. His chest heaved, and she whispered, soft as a promise. "It's not the same place. You're not there anymore. I'm here." And somehow, that mattered. His head slowly lowered. His body still shook, but his eyes blinked with recognition. He stayed still. But he didn't run anymore. That night, he lay next to Carla again. Not curled up in fear, but stretched out beside her, one paw resting gently on her leg. His breathing deep, steady. The next day, Carla made a decision. She walked into Elena's office and closed the door behind her. "I want to adopt him." Elena looked up, not surprised. "I was just waiting for you to say it." Carla smiled, her eyes filling. "He's not just a dog to me. He's home." Later that afternoon, as they walked together through the clinic garden, a light breeze swayed the trees. A child stood nearby with his father. The boy pointed at Rex. "Can I pet him?" Carla hesitated, but then she looked down. Rex was calm, watching, curious. She nodded. The boy approached slowly, hand out. Rex leaned forward and licked the boy's fingers. Carla's chest swelled with pride and something deeper, peace. They had come full circle, from trauma to trust, and the story wasn't over yet. The apartment wasn't big, just a small place above a bakery with creaky floors and sun-stained curtains. But for Rex, it was a palace. There were no raised voices here, no slamming doors, no shadows on balconies. Only Carla's voice in the morning, her quiet singing while making tea, the sound of her pencil scratching in her journal, and the soft creak of the couch when she sat down with him beside her. This was home. Rex slept near her bed now, not because she told him to, but because that's where he felt safe. Every night, he curled into a loose circle, nose tucked into his tail. And sometimes, he'd stretch out a paw and rest it near her hand, just enough to know she was close. 6 months after the fall, they returned to the rooftop where it all ended. Elena had organized a small gathering, a fundraiser for the clinic, but also something more. A silent celebration of survival, of second chances. There were photos of animals adopted, banners with words like "Healing starts with love," and one quiet photo placed at the center. Rex, lying in that rooftop corner, eyes open, tail moving. Carla stood beside him now, her hand resting lightly on his back. Rex looked up at her, calm, whole. A woman approached them. "Is this the dog from the news?" Carla nodded. The woman crouched down slowly. Rex's ears twitched, but he didn't move. "He's beautiful," the woman said softly. "You saved him." Carla smiled. "No, we saved each other." As the sun set behind the buildings, casting golden light across the city, Carla looked out over the edge of the rooftop. 14 stories down. Her chest tightened. Rex stood beside her. He didn't look afraid. He didn't even glance over the edge. He looked at her. Carla kneeled and wrapped her arms gently around his neck. "I still think about it sometimes," she whispered. "How close we came to never meeting." Rex licked her cheek. A small crowd nearby clapped as the event ended. Children played in the grass. People chatted about fostering and hope. And in the middle of it all stood a dog once broken, now a symbol of what love can repair. That night, Carla lit a candle by the window. Not for Rex, but for all the dogs like him who didn't survive, who weren't found in time, who were never given a chance to heal. She held his face in her hands and whispered, "You're not a miracle because you lived. You're a miracle because you trusted again." And in the quiet that followed, as the world outside fell asleep, Rex rested his head in her lap and didn't dream of falling anymore. If this story touched your heart, if Rex's journey reminded you of the strength hidden in silence and the beauty of second chances, please don't let it end here. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who still believes in kindness. Because somewhere, another Rex is waiting, and your support could be the difference between being forgotten or being saved. Let's give them a voice. Let's tell their stories together.